So how did I create this moody noir style black and white photo in a small space with just one light? Stay tuned and I'll show you. Hi, I'm Josh from FB Imaging and FBimaging.com. Today, I'm going to tell you how I took this photo in my small living room of my apartment. So it really wasn't that difficult, and I did it with one light and a little bit of fog for some mood. So what I did was I had a C-stand, which I propped up against the wall, and I used this cheap blinds that I had from an old house. They're basically throwaway. I zip tied it to a C-stand. Then I took an off-camera flash, 200 watt second, something you could use like an AD200. I used a newer, and I set it up with a reflector and angled it right towards my daughter, and I had her stand against the wall over here, and I shot through the blinds, casting a very prominent shadow. The thing is that when you're thinking of hard light, because this is, technically very hard light, it's hard light, but you really have to look at it as hard shadow, okay? Fast fall off, because you're using a smaller, brighter source. So it has its purposes. And for something like this, it really worked out because it added a dynamic to the shot that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and to create a mood like that was actually really great and quite fantastic. The thing is that I had a limited space, and I wanted to create a mood and set something up. So had I done it in color, it wouldn't have looked good at all. But by having more contrast and creating a mood and adding a little bit of fog from a little handheld fog machine, it was almost like you could probably get away with using a mist filter. You can do these in post, but doing it this way, it's more baked in, and I kind of like the look a little bit better, but everybody has their own touch, and that's the thing, is that it's up to your own creative license to do with it what you will. Now, that being said, this was the way that I saw it fit. So what I had done was set the reflector, shot through, caught that, and then as I did, I kind of upped the contrast and, brought up some of the shadows, highlights, and I really, really liked the final look. And that was one way of doing it. Now, and I just did that with one light. Here's another example that I recently did, and I did this obviously with myself with, a trigger release, and instead I used 3 lights. So I used 3 lights this time, and I used some colored gels. Now, what I did was I have an optical snoot, which I'll do another video on that soon and show you that. But basically, it is a light shaping tool that is really changing the game on a lot of my portrait photography, and I'm going to be incorporating it more and more. It's just really versatile, and it's a way to get really creative with how I'm able to shape and utilize light. So what I had done is I had set up a 400 watt second off-camera flash as my main key light with the optical snoot. Now, you're gonna need something that is a little more powerful like that. I used the Neewer Q4 for that, and it really made a really big difference using that. I used a 200 watt second, and it just wasn't quite enough pop to get what I really wanted from it. And it gave me a lot more leeway, a little headroom, if I'm using an audio term, to do that. And then I used a couple different colored gels on a speed light and then another off-camera flash that I had. And I did that to add a couple pops of color and also to separate myself from the background. I took a couple of those photos, and you'll see here I did one in color, and I liked having the color, and there was, you know, decent contrast between dark and light, and you still had a little bit of a pop of color, and the strip on my face really caught my eye. So when I went and took a look at it, this is the same photo, but I changed a few things and upped the contrast just a little bit and brought it into black and white here. So in the black and white, I felt like it kind of defined and chiseled out my face a little bit better. Now, maybe you tell me what you think in the comments. I'm not sure necessarily which I like better. They're just different, and for different reasons, and you're going to create a lot of different things for different reasons. Now, there's a number of things that I could have done. So maybe next time I was thinking of taking an off-camera flash and aiming it behind my subject and, you know, more or less overexposing my background to create like a bright white background. And then that also can create a really big contrast between dark and light, and with light shed in on the face. So I'm not sure what everybody else is really looking for. I'm not sure what everybody else would have done in that situation. But I was just coming here to show you guys today a couple different ways to do it. When you might want to use black and white and when you might not. But all these things are going to give you a lot more options, and the more options you have in your toolkit, the more you can get creative. We're trying to do fun things here. I'm going to keep creating things. I'm going to show them to you, see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments section. Thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe. It's totally free. Again, I'm Josh from FB Imaging and FBimaging.com. Thanks, and have an awesome day.